Hello everyone, and welcome back to Creating Hanley. My name is Kimberly, and in this episode, we are making Hearts Around. I believe that is what this is called. Hearts Around 12.5-inch quilt block. And I used 4 different colors. And you can see the hearts here, right? You can see the hearts. It's stylized. It's more square-ish. But yeah, hearts around. And you could put it on point. And then it kind of makes a cool pattern. When you do this, it doesn't even look like hearts anymore. It looks like T's or eyes or Thor hammer or something. But isn't that interesting? And then it goes back to being hearts here again, right? Put it on point and it looks different. It just has a different look to it. All right, but I've been using this book for the past 2 years, 1,000 blocks, and it's on page 437. Hearts around right here. So you can see 4 different colors. Now they used different colors. I used pinks and reds for Valentine's Day. This is also February 2nd at the time of this recording, 2026, the year 2026. And I am, what is that, AD? And I'm using this right here, this pattern. So 4 different colors. The background is the same. It's a cream on cream. And 4 colors, but 5 colors, but 4 cuts. So let me show you what those are right here. And we're going to be making flying geese, but one at a time. So it takes a little bit of time, but we can do this. Yes, we can. So let's get into it, shall we? Yeah, this was fun. So my February theme is hearts, and it's also Women Heart Health Month, I believe. So yeah. All right. So the 4 different cuts. We have the 2 colorful cuts, and then we have the 2 background cuts. So let's start with the background, the cream, or the tone on tone, cream, tone on tone. You can see this has a little print to it, just little circles. This big cut right here, we need 2 squares. This is called D, letter D. 4 7/8 square, 4 7/8. Now I make my 4 7/8 cuts 5 inches. So I just cut 2 5-inch squares. Now these rectangles, these are 2.5 by 4.5. You need 8 of those. 8 2.5 by 4.5, labeled A. Now for the colors, you need 4 2.5 by 2.5 on each color. So you have 4. I have 4 of this color, 2.5 by 2.5. I have 4 of this color, 2.5 by 2.5. 4 of this color, 2.5 by 2.5, and 4 of this color, 2.5 by 2.5. Okay, so you should have 16 cuts right there. And same colors. Now you just need 1 big square of each of those colors. And this is labeled C. And this big square from each of those is 5 1/4 inch. So 5 1/4 inch. So that's going to be 1/4 inch bigger than this one. Okay? So a little bit bigger. All right. So 5 1/4 each of each color. 1/4 inch of each color. All right. That is that. That is labeled C. Okay. So now what you want to do, pre-line on the back of each one of your 2.5-inch colors, a diagonal line from one corner to the next, just one. I used chalk on the darker ones, and then I used just regular pencil, a number 2 pencil on the lighter ones where the chalk wouldn't show up. Okay, so do that because that is going to be part of your flying geese with the cream rectangles. So those all go together. And then for the print or the colors, each one of these squares is going to be cut in half diagonally. So we're going to do that right now, okay? So I just take the back. It doesn't matter which, the front or back, but I'm going to grab a long straight edge. And if you want to, you could stack them. You know what? I'm going to try. So you can stack them. Really make sure you line up all of those corners. And we're going to do, I'm just going to do face side down. Now on a color that's a solid, it's going to be tough to tell which side is up and which side is down. You know, which side is face up and which is the back. So it doesn't really matter. This is kind of a mess though. And so I'm going to, it's got glitter on it and cat fuzz. Just on this one. Okay. So it's got glitter on because this one has glitter. You can kind of see the shimmers, right? It has glitter. So glitter is getting on the other fabric. And then this one. And there we go. Ooh, this one's a little bit bigger. Is that right? Oh, this one's bigger. I'm going to put that on the bottom. Oh, yeah. It's a little off. Okay. So I have a fresh blade in here. And I'm going to, you know what? This one is off by a lot. So I'm going to trim this. You can see the bottom there. That's off by a lot. So I'm just going to trim this. If this side is measured up, I'm just going to use the other fabric. Wow, that is really off. I must have made that one 5.5 or something. I don't know. But now they should all be the same. And a simple edge to edge like that. And then we're going to do the same thing. Now, do not move the fabric. Just gently move your straight edge and line up corner to corner. Make sure corner to corner and then cut. Okay. Now, one of these stacks you can set aside, put this in your scrap bin in your crumb box because we will not be using that. We only need 3. We only need 3. So already this has produced just a tiny bit of waste, but you know me, I put this in my crumb box and we just did a video on crumbs. So check out that video. We can use those in that video. But if you want to, you can put these in piles of the same if you want to. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Just start making your squares. Okay. So, those are cut and prepared. All right. Now, what do we do with these big squares? These cream on cream? We cut these one diagonal. So, I'm just going to line up both of these, same thing. Take my straight edge, corner to corner, and both squares get cut diagonally. Okay, so now we have 4 triangles. Okay. All right, and there's the D. Okay, now you can set those aside. Now I'm going to start making the flying geese with these. So let's take the same color. We need 2 cream with each color. So, you know what? I'm going to line these up. And then I'm going to take you over. I'm going to set these up, and then I'm going to take you over to the machine. So we're just going to do all of these over at the machine, shall we? Let's fly you over there. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, let's see. Where can you see the best? I don't know. Maybe right there. Okay. Let's turn on an extra light. There. Okay, so make sure your tone-on-tone cream is face up. And then you're going to take your colors and put them face down. Now, you want to make sure that you only do one at a time. So we're going to put this square right here, okay? Just like that. And then I'm going to start sewing from the flat edge, not from the corner. I'm going to start sewing here. And then I'm going to take my needle just to the inside, or maybe that's the outside, but just to the so I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to sew, and I've done this before, sew just to this side. So here's the corner. I'm going to sew just to the corner-ish side. So is this the outside? Is this the outside or the inside? I think it's the inside because when you fold this over, that is the inside of the fold. And then this will create the new corner, okay? So make sure that everything is lined up perfectly, okay? And then get your needle lined up just to the side of that marked line. Why does this look off? Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, there we go. And then when you finish that, keep that there. We're going to chain piece. So I'm going to set the second part aside. You can throw that there if you want. It may fall off the back. I don't know how your setup is. But then I'm going to do the same thing on all of these. Oh, you know what? This should probably go this way. And set that in the right place. Uh-oh, I'm coming to the end of my bobbin. I think. Coming to the end of the bobbin. There's still some thread on here, but you know what? I'm just going to change this now while I have the opportunity. Okay. Because something went a little bit wrong. All right, so now when you fold this over, you can easily see how that fabric has now become the new corner. Great. All right. So, but the thing is, you do not want to start sewing the other one yet. So just hang on, and we'll just chain piece all of them. In fact, I don't know if you can see the iron over here. I'm just gonna iron that down. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna put that there. Okay. Now, set these aside. And then we're gonna do the rest of these, okay? So this is gonna be how this section goes. So I'm just gonna take two. I think I was doing this. Line that up. Keep that in there. And then set two aside. And then we need two more of the next color. I'm just going to set two aside to start. And then for these two red ones, I'm just going to set two aside to start. Okay. So there's that. There's that. Make sure this is still. And then this goes down and that goes down. Okay. There we go. All right. So let's do this. So this is a sew along with me. So after you've cut all your fabric and everything is labeled and in order, let's do this together. We're gonna finish this block right now in the next 20 minutes or so. Okay. And then you can make as many of these as you want. Now, personally, I find that this is a very slow way to make flying geese, because you can make flying geese multiples at a time. So if you're going to be making this particular quilt block, the whole quilt, like that's going to be your entire pattern, then I would make multiple flying geese at a time, because this is a very, very slow method of doing this. All right, so now we have all these chained. That's why they're called chain piecing, because they're all chained together. And so I'm just going to cut these apart. And then I'm going to fold over the corners and iron them down, and then open them up and cut them. So I'm actually going to cut this part off. And then this fabric becomes the new corner. And then we're going to do the same thing all over again on the other side. Okay, so I just happen to like working with flat fabric, so that is why I iron. You don't have to iron in this section right here. If you just want to trim your corners off, you can do that. Oh, and you know what? The other thing you can do, if you wanted to save this fabric and put this in your crumb box, you can make another half square triangle right here by sewing an extra line like so, and then you trim down the center, and then this becomes your second half of the flying geese, right? This is what we're using. And then this goes into your crumb box as a half square triangle. Check it out. All right. So if you wanted to do that to all of your crumbs, or to all of your half flying geese, feel free. You can do that to each one of these. Okay? It adds an extra step, but it's pretty cool. At the end, you have some crumb pieces. In fact, I might just do that to all of these, because if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I love working with crumbs. And in fact, the video previous to this one was working with crumbs, and we made, which one did we make? We made this one in the video. We made this crumb, but after filming, I made a couple more. I made 2 more. So you could see I used those teeny tiny pieces in crumb blocks. All right, and then I just keep that right here. Okay, so let's do these as well. Now this is going to add time, not only to this video, but to your project, but it doesn't add a whole lot of time, just a couple minutes. And then you can do the same thing when we do this side, you could do the same thing there. And then you have like, how many would that be? 8? That would be 8. No, 16 doubled. That would be 16. Okay, so trim. And now this is your half square triangle crumb. You could throw that in your crumb box. This is not part of your project, okay? But now that is part of the flying geese. Okay, so then for that one, what you would do is get your second piece, so same fabric, second piece, and then you want to put the line in the opposite direction, so that when you fold that over, this makes a point up here, okay? So I would suggest making sure that every time you put one of these down, you double check that it is in the right position before you sew, because otherwise you're going to be picking out all that thread and then turning this and then having to redo it, okay? So double check your work. And do you have to use scissors? No. See, there we go. I'm just going to throw these right here, the ones that are done. Okay. A little bit extra work, but it's worth it in the end. Wow, that was a really bad cut. All right, I think this is the last one. Okay, so I'm gonna take these away. I'm just going to make sure that I iron those flat because I want that to be a flat. So, okay, here we go. Now I'm just gonna double check that I have the right color fabric. Here we go. This one, yes, this one and this one match. And again, I make sure that the line goes in the correct order, the correct direction. And then you line that up on the side here. And then again, you sew just to the other side of that. Now I'm starting with a point. Hopefully this does not get, yeah, it didn't. It did not get eaten up in the feed dogs, which is good because sometimes that happens. Okay. And make sure this is square. This should be good. Oh, see how it got eaten in the feed dogs there? Bad, bad. No, no, don't do that. See how that it got eaten up in the feed dogs? Ah, no, bad. All right, so what I'm gonna do is pull that out. And I thought because I had a leader in there first that it would be okay, but it's not okay. So, and this is really tight and it bunches up that fabric, and that is not good for your project. So you want to avoid that by just starting from the side. And it also creates some holes. I don't know if you could see that hole in the fabric up there. That's not good for your project either. Okay, see? Now it creates holes in your fabric. Not good. Holes in your fabric. So what I do is I just iron that out. Obviously, I've done this before. So I just iron that. I just iron that a little bit more flat. And it seems to be okay. Okay, so this one done. And now I can make the half square triangle again. Okay, now I gotta make sure that I do this circle or this line straight where I need it to be. And I'm gonna start down here. Now when you start down here, there's already some fabric here. So it's already puffed up a little bit. So you gotta make sure that you're very careful when you start sewing that it doesn't go cattywampus on you. Okay? So give yourself a little bit of room, and then yeah, I hold it in place and it starts. And if you need to go like a little bit slower, feel free to go a little bit slower. Okay, now what do we have here? This one. So again, I'm going to put the line this way. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to cut this out. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So, trim this corner off. And voila. There we go. There's our flying goose. So, or you can think of it as this way. Now, one thing I would highly recommend is to square these up. So we're going to have to take a little bit of time to square up each one of these, okay? Because it gets a little off. You could probably see this is a little bit crooked up here. So you don't want to put too many crooked lines in your quilt because then it'll go way off. All right, so I'm going to throw that right there. And I swing it around and I'll do the extra stitch that's not needed in this quilt project, but just as a little extra bonus for me. There we go. Okay. Do this one. And again, the line overlaps this edge of the triangle. Face side down. Okay. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is going to be a little bit longer video, but step by step, if you're sewing along, we're going to be done at the end of this video. Okay, last two. And again, the line goes over that triangle edge. Oh, why is this one getting a little cattywampus? Getting a little cattywampus on me. Okay, now for these last few, I'm going to have to go back through and, actually, I'm just going to cut these off right here and do the second line, sew the second line for the square triangle, half square triangle. Now these two already have that second line, so I'm just going to cut. Now if I open up that, bingo, there we go. That is our half square triangle. I'm going to cut this one too. Uh-oh. All right, so we have two of these half square triangles. Now we just need 6 more. All right, now we have this one done. Okay, so I want to go through and finish. Now, right now, they're all sewn, but I'm just going to go through these and do the second line for the half square triangle. Okay. split these apart. And cut between those two sewn lines. Ta-da! There we go. Okay, now again, just to show you. I got a bunch of those. Okay, here we go. Now, show you over here. Right here. All right. Okay, now we need to square these up. So let's go back over to the cutting board. And we need to square these up. So these should be 2.5 by 4.5. 4.5 this way, 2.5 by this way. And this one's pretty close. You know what? I'm gonna just leave that line there and go with this. Okay. Two and a half by 4.5. These are, I mean, they're pretty much on. You can see I'm not getting much trim off of there. Okay, this one though, this one needs a little work, a little help. Oh, this one's pretty spot on, actually. There we go. Yeah, this one, I'm not getting anything off of that. That's pretty spot on. Okay. Okay. Hey, Hey, a kitty cat. There's a kitty cat. Hello, kitty cat. All right. Trim. All right. Last two. This one's a little cockeyed. This one's going to be a problem. This is cockeyed in the... Yeah. Already I'm seeing a problem with this pink. This pink fabric is a little more flimsy than the others, and it doesn't hold up very well. It distorts very easily. So I can tell I'm going to have a problem with these two pink ones. Hey, the kitty brought me a toy. Hey, kitty brought me a toy. Hi, kitty. All right. Now that all that is done, we can sort of start putting this together now. So, so these units, now we can't start putting these together now. So these units go like this together. I'm just going to show you how you're looking at it. I'm going to fly you overhead. That is how they look together. Okay? So you want to put these in your, where's the template? They go like this. So see now, this is a flying goose unit and this is a flying goose unit. Now you see them. This is that pink triangle, that C, okay? Here's the C, and then here is D, right here. Super easy now at this point, so let's start putting these together. Okay, and it doesn't matter how they go, but I'm gonna help you figure out the pattern. So let's just start right at the top looking at you. Now we're gonna take just pick one color, and then you're gonna put, let me think about this. You're gonna put this like this, and then the next color, the points go in. So think about it as the points are going in towards the center. And then in the center are two more of these of C, okay? So here, now I'm going to put my C like this. So I have the long edge of my triangle butt up against that point, okay? So we're going to do this. All right, just like that. And then the other pink, the remaining pink, goes over here to the opposite side. Now, I'm going to fly you this way to show you. That's how that looks at the top. That's at the top. Now we're going to do this, and the bottom. It doesn't matter which direction you put these in. I'm just going to pick, like this goes like this. Okay? And then this goes like that. So all the points of your flying geese go towards the center. And then you take your triangles and let's see, how do we do this? Matching up. I gotta think. Maybe it's like this. Oh yeah, okay, that's how that goes. So the long sides of the triangle are always facing your same color. Okay, the long sides of the triangle always face the same color. That makes it easy. Boom, throw that in there. Long sides face the color. Long sides face the color. And here, 3 triangles. Long sides face the color, like so. And boom. Now you have it. Now the only things you have are the four corners, and that is your D, your tone-on-tone background. Okay, so you put the long edge of the triangle against those colors, and boom, now you have just created your square. Okay, now how you start sewing these together, I would sew them together in blocks. So start with the center. Okay, start with the center block. Now if you close these up, that is your center. Okay, just like this, that is your center. So when you close these, those go together, these go together, these go together. Now your uh, corner squares. Okay, so sew them in these patches, and now you have a 9 patch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Simple. So now you can make a 9 patch. So I would, however you want to start is up to you. But if you start in the center, explode these apart. Put one triangle on top of the other, identical. So this seam allowance right here. And then we're going to open it. And then we're going to sew this seam allowance right here. And then we're going to open that. And then we're going to put those two together. Okay? So let me take you back over. And then I'm going to take you back over to the machine. There we are. And then I'm just going to bring this over. And we're going to just start piecing these all together. Okay? And we're almost done. So line up your thread on your presser foot, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Align the needle if you had moved it before, and 1/4 inch seam allowance. Go. Next one. So again, here is the other half of that center right here. We're going to sew seam allowance here. So I'm going to flip this over and line that up perfectly as I can get it. And then 1/4 inch seam allowance starting on the flat end. So let's try to avoid any feed dog issues. Okay, now if you want to, you can take this apart and put the center together right now if you wanted to. You can chain piece all of your pieces. At this point, if you've been quilting for a while, you already know what to do, okay? But if you wanted to just like piece each patch together so that you have a 9 patch and then you just put your 9 patch together, that's great. Okay, so now this goes like this, okay? And then I'm just going to nest these together. So see how I did put the seams in the opposite directions so that I can nest right here, or some people say nestle, the seams together all the way up, so that when I pull this back, you can see that the seams line up exactly. Okay? So this is going to be a triangle in the feed dogs, but let's see if I can kind of work it through so it doesn't fall in there. And we made it, so we're good there. Okay, now I'm going to cut these apart. Or not cut them apart, I'm just going to cut that out. And then boom, we've made our centerpiece. Okay, so iron. I like to iron. Do you just place the iron on there, let the heat and the weight of the iron do the work, and then now you have your center square. We can square this up for sure, okay? Because this, I'm pretty sure this, for me, this is going to be wonky. Because usually my stuff, especially when I do it on film, is kind of wonky because I go so fast. Even though you're thinking, Kim, this isn't very fast. Yeah, I know. But it kind of is. So all I'm doing off camera is I'm just like trimming those little they call them dog ears, just those little pieces right there. Just like this stuff right here. Trim that off and throw it away. Okay, and I just dropped something. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm going to show you behind me right here. This goes there. Now, one patch done and 8 more to do. So I'm just going to take something easy. How about these? Throw that together. We're going to sew right down here. And 1/4 inch seam allowance. Line those up as best as possible. And then I'm going to take the other 3. I'm going to leave this in here. And I'm going to take the other 3 of these and do the same thing. So you take this, line it up. And I'm going to put this side through the bottom instead of this because this has some seams and this one doesn't. That's going to get potentially flipped over. So that's how I'm going to work that. Okay. Now, just chain piece. Two more. Here's the pink one. Flip. And one more here. Flip. All right, very good. Now I'm gonna take one corner. I'm just gonna take this one, just how I have it, had it on the table before. Okay, so just like before, we're gonna put these triangles right on top of each other, and then instead of putting this end through, I'm gonna flip it over and put the flat end through, so that the triangle does not get lost in the feed dogs. The other thing I'm going to do is cut off these, and then I'm going to open these up, iron them, and place them in position. Okay, so like so. Open this up like so. Now, if you want to, you can iron so that this part, the seam goes down. Now, if you have a light color here, you might see that shadow underneath there. But it's up to you whether you want to iron that up or down. So I'm going to iron that way. On all of these. And if you need to add a little steam, you can add some steam to help the fabric, ease the fabric a little bit and help it relax into position. Especially when there becomes a lot of fabric in your seams. It tends to get a little puffed up and a little wonky. So that's why I like to iron all the time. So I work with flat fabric. Okay, so now these flying geese are all sewed together. Oh, looks like I lost my point right there, and I lost my point right there. Huh, funny, I didn't quite lose my point in the pink, and definitely not here. So, yeah, mine's going to be a little bit wonky. Now, these can go all around your square, okay? And remember, the point goes towards the inside. Okay, Now, back to this one. I'm going to take this apart just so you can see where we are right now. Now, this triangle, these two colors should make this identical size, right? Yep, that should make that identical size. Okay, now I'm going to flatten that out because, again, I like flat fabric. And while that's ironing, make sure that you're working on the correct side. Sometimes these, and this is it. Sometimes these tone-on tones are tough to tell which side is up and which side is down, but this side is the right side, the up side. And then I'm going to place this on the same plane, on the same template, the outline. And then, again, I'm going to hope that I don't lose my corner in the feed dogs. And then 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. All right, now 3 more of those to go. Okay, I'm going to take these two, put that on there. And if you wanted to chain piece, now is the time to do that. You can certainly do that. And then this corner, ta-da, there you go. That should be like that. And then open that up. And it's easier to iron the seam to the background. Okay. And then I would highly recommend squaring up all of your blocks. But I may not do that for this episode because we're starting to get really long, which I knew this would run long, but it's like probably too long for you. Anyway, let's open these up. And this matches that. Okay, and again, same thing here. So basically this block is just a bunch of repetition of doing the same thing 4 times. Okay, now I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to take the next block. And we're going to chain piece these last 2 to kind of hurry it along, okay, guys? Yeah. So, same side, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And again, take this last one, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I'm going to cut these off. And this one is now complete. So there you go there. Iron that. And you can square these up for sure. Square them up. Put them in place. Okay. Open up this one. Iron. Place this down here. Line up the triangle as best you can. And 1/4 inch. Okay, last one right here. Open this up. Iron. Get the last remaining triangle. Put that on here. 1/4 inch. All right, I'm going to split these apart. And these are now done. Like so. Okay, now I'm going to push this up. I'm going to see if I can put this whole thing together right here so that you can see all of the patches. So, and how it looks. Right here is, right there. And boom, there we go. There's the 9 patches. Now I would square these up. Make sure you cut off these little dog ears and the extra I almost said fuzzies. Not the extra fuzzies, the extra like these little tabs, these little what they call dog ears. Make sure you trim those off. Square up your so it is important to square up your patches here, your squares, your blocks, because they will make your life so much easier in sewing if everything is squared and true, okay? But there you go. Now, all you have to do is take rows or columns, and so you just do like so, line up, and then start chain piecing. So I'm gonna take this one through 1/4 inch. Now this I guarantee this block is probably gonna be very wonky just because I did not square up and it's kind of fast. Okay, so whoops, oh my gosh, there we go. And last one up here. Wow, that's even shorter. Oh my, that is way not gonna work. Oh yeah, this square, I'm sorry guys, this one's gonna be very bad. Okay, now I'm gonna cut these off. I know that this was the first one through, so this one goes on here. And I don't even have to iron that yet because I just want to get this done. So instead of putting it through this way, I'm just going to turn this around. And so 1/4 inch. Oops. All right. I hit the wrong button and anyway, that is what that looks like so far. That's one row. Okay. Now you can iron. All right, now let's do these 2 remaining. All right, and that goes there, and this goes here. So remember, these go like this, in this order, okay? I'm gonna throw this here. Line that up. Oh. And put this through. And then this goes like this. So I can tell that the seams underneath here flipped up, I think twice. Yeah, this flipped up. Okay, that's why you want to sew it the other way. But you know, as I said, I'm doing this kind of too fast. And there we go there. One more. Okay, now If we put this all together, now we have 3 rows here, or 3 columns, right? So if we put this all together, this is what it looks like. Great. Okay, now you want to line these up right here. So line up these 2. And if you want to make sure that your seam allowances go the opposite direction so that they nest, that's great. You can add that in as well. And then I'm just going to stick a pin right here and right here. You don't have to, but I am. And then 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then if you can, try to make sure any seams underneath are going in the direction that you want them to go. So that means you might have to stop and refigure your fabric. If you have pins, make sure you pull them out before your needle goes over them. Now, in the past, we used to just leave them in, but I think needles would break, or, you know, it's not good. So, or they would bend. So it's just better if you make sure that you take the time to flip the seams the correct direction underneath, and also to take the time to pull out the... And then I always check to make sure all the fabric is caught underneath and that all the fabric is caught on the top. And then, oh, there we go. We got one more row to do. Boom. And then, so I just align the middle ones first. Try to make sure that these are as even as possible. And this is going to be super wonky, so wonky. It's actually really bad. I'm really embarrassed that I'm making this, but I'm just gonna throw this together. There we go. All right, this. Okay. Oh my gosh. You guys, this is not my best, this is not my best work, but the project is done. Hearts around. And there we go. Okay. That is our project. All right. Have fun making this, okay? I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.